Welcome to Spreadsheets with Dan. This lesson is about the home ribbon. The ribbon is positioned at the top of the page. The ribbon view changes based on the tab you select. Along the top, you can see all the tabs which go from left to right and always in this order. File, Home, Insert, Page Layout, Formulas, Data, Review, View, Automate, and finally, Help. To select a tab, just use your mouse and click. If your ribbon is not visible, simply click on any tab followed by Show Ribbon drop-down, which is here. Then select Always Show Ribbon, which will be indicated by a tick. If you don't want to see the ribbon, simply double-click any tab twice. Each tab gives you access to the ribbon with a selection of tools and functions. On the ribbon, tools are grouped with similar options. For example, on the Insert tab, all the chart options are grouped here. Some of the selections extend into larger pop-up windows for more choice. For example, in the Home tab, in the Font section, you can extend into the Format Cells window. This gives you even more options you can use. Now we've had a quick run through and some of the basic visuals of the ribbon, let's jump in and start using them. So we've had a quick run through of the visuals of what we can see on the home ribbon. What we're going to do is jump into a bit of a lesson. We're going to get some data and we're going to start using that to practice some of the tools and commands that we've got on this home ribbon. So to start with, we've got nothing in sheet 1, but I've already prepared some information in sheet 2. So what we're going to do is jump into sheet 2 and we're going to practice some of these tools. We're going to start in the clipboard section by trying to take this information from sheet 2 and get it into sheet 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this first part of the table, which is it's got country and capitals. So what I'm going to do is select all of that using my mouse. I'm going to use the copy button here. Then I'm going to jump into sheet 1. I'm going to change where I want it. I'm going to move it into this cell here and press paste. So what you always need to do is to select the top left-hand most cell and it will populate from there. So now we've done that, what we can use is to increase the column size. If we just select in between, we can drag the column width, which will increase the column width, so we can do that, and that's helped. If we can see here, Washington DC is quite long, so what we need to do is stretch that column out a little bit more, and then we've also got slightly larger rows. So what we can do is select the whole sheet using this button here in between 1 and A, and then if we just hover in between any of the row numbers, like I've gone between 4 and 5, you can see the line and 2 arrows. Once I see that, if I double click, it will automatically resize. This also works with your columns. You need to be in between two columns at the time to do this. So now we've got that looks really good. So let's now go back to sheet 2. So that was the copy and paste function. So we could literally copy all of this information all at once using copy and paste, but I want to show you some of the other functions that's available. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do the country and currency. So I'm going to select it all again using my mouse, starting in the top left-hand corner and moving all the way down to the right. This time I'm going to use cut. When I use cut, select that. I'm going to go back to sheet 1 and I'm going to go in the cell C1 indicated here and then press paste. When I've done that, have you noticed it's resized everything? So basically, every time you paste something in, it will resize based on the latest data that you've populated. What I'm going to do is now when we go back to sheet 2, what you'll notice is the middle range, which is actually been cut from the page and pasted onto the front page. Whereas, so the copy will copy and leave the data where it is, where a cut will remove the data and it will paste it where you want it. So let's continue this, and I think based on the cut works better because we're not going to be using this sheet. So let's cut this data here. So we're going to click cut, go onto the front sheet. We're going to place it next to the in column E1, and we're going to paste. That's brilliant. So now we can go back into sheet 2. We don't need that, so we can highlight that all, and we can press the delete key, and that's empty. So now sheet 2, totally gone. None of the information we need is in there. We can go back to sheet 1. So now what we've got is we've got a list of countries and capitals, but obviously country is repeated over and over again. So what we're going to do is, first things first, let's just use some of the tools that we've got in the clipboard. So what I want to do is looking at this. So column A has a slightly different font format than the others. So I can see that by just the visuals of the sheet, but also if I click into the cell here will tell me inside of the font section what font is being used and what size. So you can see in cell A1, this is Calibri, font size 11, and the bold button has been activated. If I click below, I can also see it's still Calibri, font size 11, but no bold function. And that if I just might work my way down the sheet, I can see that the Calibri is still there. It's still at font size 11. And I think this is the same for column B, exactly the same. When I move over to column C, I can see that the header is Calibri, but the font is different. You can see that it seems to be the same all the way through this piece of information. So what we're going to do here is we're going to resize all the data. Now we've got everything in there. So let's select all of the columns. Let's select all of the columns. Let's just stretch out. So when you select a whole range, it moves all the columns at once, which is really good. So now we've stretched the columns so that all of the words in the cells fit. Once we've done that, we can select somewhere in the middle. So we see the line and the two arrows, double click. It's now resized all the columns to suit the text that's in the cells. We can do the same here with rows. Wait for see the line, the two arrows, double click. Everything's been resized. So see, maybe we need slightly more room here. So we can just go through. We can select, double click if these have not resized. And then what I'd like to do, I'd like all of the fonts and font sizes to be the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this whole range of data. And now I'm going to select Format Painter. And I'm going to select the rest of this data. And boom, there it is. The Format Painter has worked really well. It's carried the format, even though the header was slightly different to the text that was in each. Even though the font on the header was slightly different than the text in the body, it's changed everything to be in the same format. So now we've done that, I think obviously we need to resize everything again. Let's just resize, stretch it a little bit larger than we want. We'll do the same down here. Now we've done that, let's just double click in between, double click on the rows. Now everything fits in. So what we can see here, now we've done that, is we've got a little bit of repetition. So I think what we need to do is delete. We don't need country to appear multiple times. All the information seems to be correct. So the top line is the United Kingdom, then you've got France, Germany, Italy, Spain. So I can see all the data in all the rows is corresponding. So what we need to do is let's delete the repetition of country. So we're going to select the whole column. We're then going to right click and it brings up our menu. And then we're going to scroll down to here where it says delete, and that'll remove that column. We're going to do the same here. We're going to select column D. We're going to right click. We're going to scroll down to delete and click. So now we've only got country once, capital, currency, and population. So now we're working with a bit of a better data source. So I'd like to resize everything so it looks nice and easy. So now we've got that. That looks really good. So let's move on to the next part. So to this point, what we've used is the cut, copy, format printer, and paste. Really good. It's a really good start to the lesson. We've used all 4 functions within the clipboard. We have now used all 4 functions in the clipboard. Let's move on to the font section. So now let's move on to the font section. So currently we have this top row, which we're going to refer to as our header. So what we can see based on the information, now we've highlighted all the rows, everything in the home ribbon is showing the information that's indicated below. So we can see it's got a Calibri font, it's size 11, it's bold, it's also got a wrapped text. What we're going to do is, because it's our header, we're going to click here to increase the size of our font, click the large A to increase, the small a to decrease. Alternatively, we can click the drop down and we can change the size here. So what I think I'd like to do is I'd like to use font size 14, which I think is a really good size for a header for what we're looking at. Now we've done that, we get another opportunity to practice resizing the columns. So we can stretch out column D, needs to be a little bit more. There we go. So these all fit perfectly. Now we've done that, I think let's continue to work on our header to improve. So what I'd like to do is next is look at a different font. I like Calibri, but I think for this occasion, I'm going to click here, which is the drop-down window for fonts. Now we've done that, we have a very large selection of different fonts. If you hover over the fonts, if you selected any cells, they will change. I, in this instance, would like to use Aptos. I think it's suitable for the type of data that we're collating. Now we've done that, that looks really good. So you can see now we've selected this information. No matter any of the cells that we click on in this top row, we can see it's Aptos 14, bold, it's got a wrap text. What we can also see in the alignment section, if we select this whole top row, is that the indentation is to the left and it's also placed in the center or the middle alignment. So what we'd like to do, using the alignment section, selecting the whole top row, is to do a center to put all our content in the center, and we'll also have it in the middle align. So that looks really good. Now we've done that, what I'd like to do is add some color. So we've got the bold, so let's try and find a nice color to go with the bold black. So to change the color of the fill of our cell, we can use this drop down here, this icon of the paint pot, click drop down. So you've got two options. So you've got standard colors, or you can click here for high contrast. So in this video, let's just use the standard colors. If you want to change your color format, it's in here. We can cover that in another video, which is in the page layout section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this blue here. So I recommend always using a slightly paler color with a dark black font. So let's click that. So we do that, and now we've done that, it's populated all the cells. So it's filled all the cells with the blue. Now we've done that, I think what I'd like to do with this header is to add a border. So the border is just next to the paint can. Just click here, and you've got a selection of border options. What I like to do is you can hover over these. It'll tell you what you want to do. What I want to use is all borders. I recommend with these sort of functions is to go practice, get some. What I recommend is to try all these different options out. I mean, in this instance, we're just going to use all borders, but in different circumstances, you might use them for different things. Looking useless fucker. So let's have a look. So we've now got our border around our headers. So our headers we've made bold. We've picked a new font. We've colored. We've filled in the cell. So let's have a look. We've got our header, which we have used a different font. We've increased the size of that font. We've filled the cell with a blue. We've used a bold function. And so now the header's really starting to stand out. So let's have a look at what we can do below that. So what I think I'd like to do here is let's move on to the population. And what I'd like to do is make the population, I'd like that to stand out a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to also use the alignment. I'm going to center the content that's in these cells so it looks a little bit better. I think I'd like all my countries, capitals, and currencies all to be with a left indentation, which we can see here. We'll select them all and we'll just align left. That looks really good. So now we've done that, we've actually been able to practice using this clipboard section, we've used the font section, and we've used the alignment section. So now what we're going to do is to expand on that. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to add an additional header. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on column 1. Now I've done that, it's highlighted. So what I'd like to do is just to expand on my table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on row 1. I'm then going to right click and click insert. When I do that, it's going to copy my data and move it all down and insert a row above. Now it's done that, what I'd like to do is highlight the whole section. I'd like to use the blue again. And I'm going to use the merge cell, which now has made this whole top row and this selected section merge into one big cell. As you can see, it's really long, so we can type what we want in here. And what I'm going to type in is dance. So let's have now we've done that, let's type in to our header. Ooh, now we've done that. So we can type in, so we can just fill that in. We're going to also use the bold. I'm going to change this to Aptos. Instead of using the drop down here, if I know my font, I can just type it in and press enter. Also, same with here. If I want to change that, I can just type using my number pad. And now what we can do is use one more function. We'll use a drop down here for the borders. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a thick outside border. That looks really good. I think I'd like to be able to see that a little bit better. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on column A and select the whole column. And then I'm going to right click on my mouse button and I'm going to click insert. And that's inserted another column to the left. It's moved all my data along. We can do the same here. Let's click in row 1. We're going to right click. I'm going to insert. That's really good. So now we've got my list of favorite countries. I've got my countries, my capitals, currency, and population. Let's make this look a little bit better. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of this data. I think it'd look better if it had a border. So I'm going to go back into this section. I'm going to click the drop down. I'm going to select all borders. Brilliant. There we have it. So I've got a list of my favorite countries. We've been through the clipboard section, we've been through the font section and the alignment section. I think this was a really good lesson. We've had to practice on a few different functions and tools within the home ribbon. I think what I recommend now is to go away, have a practice yourself, maybe try rebuild your list of countries and see how you get on. And is trying loads of different fonts, trying loads of different sizes, see what the colours do for you, maybe try the different coloured font. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd like to see you in the next one.